For anyone who joins the live stream via Facebook, you are more than welcome to leave comments in the comments section. We'll be monitoring the Facebook comment section. Anyone who's joining us on the webinar, feel free to leave comments or questions in the Q&A feature or in the chat. Happy Friday, everyone. My name is Molly Sarver. I am the Senior Land Use Planner at the Indiana County Office of Planning and Development. I serve as the Sustainability Coordinator to the Indiana County Sustainable Economic Development Task Force, who is hosting this summit webinar series. The task force started in April of 2017. It was started by the Indiana County Commissioners, Michael Baker, Rod Ruddick, and Shereen Hess, in partnership with Evergreen Conservancy, the Center for Community Growth, and the League of Women Voters. One of the first missions of the task force was to develop a sustainability report for Indiana County. They began the process of engaging the community to look for opportunities for sustainable development in September of 2017. Through this process of engaging the community, they narrowed down 4 particular focuses for the report, those being sustainable agriculture, renewable energy, building construction materials, and environmental restoration and stewardship. Within these 4 focuses, they looked for opportunities for economic development, workforce development, and citizen education. And then beyond these 4 focuses, they identified 5 recommendations for the county. 1, they wanted to establish a new mission for the task force. They wanted to, now that the report was finished, continue acting on these recommendations and continue moving forward and acting on the report through partnerships. They wanted to develop an Office of Sustainability. So even though we don't have a formal Office of Sustainability at the county, I am a staff person to the Sustainable Economic Development Task Force, and we've also helped supplement those efforts through internships. But primarily we are volunteer driven. They also wanted to continue holding annual Sustainable Economic Summits. So this is our 4th summit. We have held a summit every year since 2017, except for last year due to the pandemic. They also want to work to incorporate the Sustainable Economic Development Task Force report into our long-range planning at the county level. And they also wanted to try and expand broadband access across the county. So in 2018, at our 2nd Sustainability Summit, they released the report to the public, and it was adopted by the county commissioners. If you want to see presentations from our previous summit, which would be Summit 3 from 2019, you can go to sustainableindianacounty.org, click Events, and then click Previous Summit Events. This is also the location where we are posting the recorded webinars from the Summit 4, which is this one. So if you missed this presentation or if you've missed other presentations and webinars, you can go to sustainableindianacounty.org, events, previous summit events. If you'd like to get more involved in the task force, you can contact us at sustainableindianacounty@gmail.com. And you can also keep up to date with us by going to our website, sustainableindianacounty.org. You can also follow us on our task force Facebook page at ICSED Task Force. At the end of this presentation, you'll be redirected to our survey. We ask that you fill out our survey so that way we know, whether or not we're doing things right, if there's other content you'd like to see in the future. So we'd appreciate that feedback. If you don't have time to stay on for the entirety of this webinar, you can go to our website and find the survey there. You can also find the schedule of our future events, which we will drop in the chat. Our next webinar is next Wednesday, March 31st, and it'll focus on the energy industry, or shifts in the energy industry impacts on our workforce. And that one's going to be a very exciting talk. And our final webinar will be April 8th, and that'll be with Coalfield Development, which is a wonderful organization that works in transitioning local economies. So, definitely check those out. Without further ado, I will turn things over to Amy Knurr from Jefferson County Community Action, Inc. Thank you, Amy.
Okay, good afternoon. It's a pleasure to be here. Thank you so much for your time and for inviting me to talk today a little bit about community action and our Weatherization Assistance Program. So my name is Amy Kinnear, and I'm the Weatherization Director for Community Action's Weatherization Program. I'm just going to quickly offer an overview of what we're going to cover today. We'll do a quick introduction to Community Action, Inc. We'll review a brief history of weatherization. Then we'll go over Community Action's Weatherization Program, and we'll wrap up with some do-it-yourself home energy conservation tips and ideas. So Community Action, Inc. is a charitable 501c3 nonprofit that was established in 1965. Community Action has a successful history of delivering services, helping families achieve economic independence, and improving the community. Aside from weatherization, Community Action offers some other programs and services. A few of those are medical assistance transportation. We do adult education, rent and utility assistance, and some housing. Our administrative office is located here in Punxsutawney, PA, but we also have an office in Clarion, PA as well. Okay, so brief history of weatherization. I have broken it down into the federal state aspect of weatherization on this slide, and the next slide is going to focus on the Pennsylvania utility companies and their weatherization programming. So for the federal state programming side of things, in 1976, Congress passed the Energy Conservation Policy Act, and this was in response to the 1973 oil crisis. This response created a comprehensive approach to federal energy policy. And with this focus and an effort on minimizing energy demand, the Weatherization Assistance Program became an officially funded program for the first time. So the federal funds through Department of Energy and Department of Human Services are passed through to the state, the Department of Community and Economic Development, and then distributed to local providers like Community Action. Every county in Pennsylvania has a weatherization service provider, and some offer services in multiple counties like Community Action. Others just serve maybe one county. So the primary purpose of the Weatherization Assistance Program is to increase the energy efficiency of dwellings owned or occupied by low-income persons, reduce their total residential energy expenditures, and improve their health and safety, specifically low-income persons who are particularly vulnerable, the elderly, the disabled, and children. Since the inception of the program, more than 7 million homes have been weatherized. So on the Pennsylvania Utility Company programming side of things, in 1987, the Public Utility Commission mandated that utilities provide a low-income energy efficiency program. This became known as the Low Income Usage Reduction Program, or LIURP. Their primary purpose is that the programs are intended to assist low-income customers conserve energy and reduce residential energy bills. The reduction in energy bills should decrease the incidence and risk of customer payment delinquencies and the attendant utility cost associated with uncollectible accounts expense. So this focuses on energy conservation like the federal and state programs, but as you can see, there is more of a focus on correcting the customer payment delinquencies through changed behavior. Since the inception of the utility companies having their weatherization programming, there's been more than 500,000 homes weatherized. So here at Community Action, Inc., we have one utility contract and we have two federal state contracts. Our utility contract is with First Energy, and that is for their LIURP program, and it's known as the WARM program. So although we only currently have one contract with one utility company at this time, we also strive and do a really good job at coordinating with other weatherization service providers in our area. So for example, if we're serving a First Energy customer and we learn that they have Columbia Gas, National Fuel, or People's Natural Gas as their gas company, we'll reach out to that weatherization service provider and see if there's a possibility for coordination. And what that does is just leverage the funds and maximizes the benefits we can offer each customer. Through our federal state program, we have the Department of Energy Weatherization Assistance Program and the Department of Human Services Low Income Home Energy Assistance Program, known as LIHEAP. Both of these programs offer the standard regular weatherization. However, LIHEAP is unique in that it also has another component we offer, which is the crisis program. And it's for households who find themselves in a no heat situation. It runs from November through April of each year. And if you find yourself in that situation, you can contact your local county assistance office. And if they determine that the household is eligible, they'll refer them to community action. We then send our heating subcontractors to the home to assess the situation and restore safe heat. And that could be through heating system repairs or even a heating system replacement. The eligibility criteria for our programming: you must reside in either Clarion, Indiana, or Jefferson County. You can be an owner or a renter. If you're a renter, you would apply along with the landlord and ensure that we have the permission to do so. We weatherize all different types of homes: mobile homes, modular, single family, duplexes. There is the possibility for multifamily weatherization, although it's a little bit more involved and does require special permissions through the state. For energy consumption, the First Energy WARM program does have a minimum electric usage threshold in order to qualify. So what that means is if a household is income eligible, it doesn't necessarily mean that they will qualify. There has to be a minimum electric usage. And additionally, each job's budget through the electric company is directly correlated with the usage. The more electric that you're using, the higher your budget's going to be for us to do work there. And then through DOE and LIHEAP, there is no minimum energy use requirements. For previous weatherization, First Energy, their WARM program, they allow us to re-weatherize households every 5 years. For DOE and LIHEAP, you're only eligible for re-weatherization if the dwelling itself hasn't been weatherized since 1994. What that means also is that a family can move to different homes and have each home weatherized if they qualify. It's the actual home itself that cannot receive re-weatherization if it's already had it since 1994. Currently, they are working on changing the eligibility criteria for re-weatherization, and they're looking at it every 15-year criteria there. And then for the income, the Weatherization Assistance Program, the LIHEAP standard portion, and the WARM program are all 200% of the federal poverty income guideline or less. That equals $25,520 for a household of one. For the LIHEAP crisis program, or the no heat portion, it's 150% of the federal poverty income guideline or less. That equals $19,140 for a household of one. So this next slide here shows us that after a household is determined eligible and their application is approved, what we do then is we have our energy auditors conduct an home energy audit. So basically it's just a home assessment. I thought this was a really good illustration because it shows you the home and the way that our energy auditors see it through their eyes. So this illustration is showing how in every dwelling, the natural flow of air, and it typically infiltrates and enters the home in the bottom sections, and then it will make its way up and escape out through the top portions of the home. So looking at this illustration, just to kind of, mention a few things that an energy auditor would be looking at when they come to a home. is down at the lower level in the crawl space. We can see that there's some air coming in there. The energy auditor would want to see what they could do to stop that airflow. It could be with foam, caulk, foam board, things of that nature. In the next room over in the basement, we have a heating system and a hot water tank. The energy auditor would assess them to make sure that they are working efficiently and safely. We want to make sure that those items are vented to the outside and that their venting is in good condition. And if not, we would want to go ahead and adjust that. We don't want any of those dangerous gases coming back into the home. We want to make sure that they're making their way out properly. The next room over looks like the laundry room, and we can see that there's a washer and dryer. So we would look at the dryer venting again to make sure that it is venting to the outside. Moisture isn't just being dumped into the home, and also that it's vented properly. It's not crushed and creating a fire hazard of any sort. Moving up to the next level, we see the main door. It looks like there's some air coming in through there, so we would assess it and see if it needs a door replacement or simply just weather stripping and door sweeps. The window beside it, is it a single pane? Does it need to be replaced, or is there a way that we can air seal it? And then up in the attic, we would want to know if there's any insulation that exists at all, and if there is any, does it require more? So those are just a few of the things that we would look at when we go to a home. So using this whole house building science approach, the energy auditor is assessing the home to ensure that all of the parts are working together and interacting in a safe and efficient manner, that they're working together as a sound building system. The energy auditors obviously do this using their senses, but there's also a more of the science behind it, and that's where our diagnostic testing comes in. So with the diagnostic testing and the equipment that we use, we identify any health and safety issues and identify the areas of need. And from that, the energy auditor is then able to create a detailed scope of work for the installation of the energy measures. So we do combustion safety testing and gas leak testing at every home. We also do appliance testing for refrigerators and freezers. And if they are showing that they are using a lot of energy, maybe not Energy Star rated, they could, possibly be replaced with a program. So down to the left, I have a picture there, and that's of a blower door. And what the blower door test does is it basically simulates 20 mile per hour winds consistently at the home. And what the auditor can learn from this is where exactly the leaks are occurring and where the air is infiltrating in areas that shouldn't be. And then again, they can create their detailed plan on how to stop that infiltration. Additionally, what that test does is it gives a number of the cubic feet per minute of airflow that is entering a person's home. And with that, you can think of it as a scale of 0 to 10,000. So if we, in this case, would get a number of 5,000, especially on a day like today, you can be pretty sure that that person is uncomfortable and noticing a lot of drafts and airflow and movement in the home. If you would get a reading of 1,000, say, that is a home where there's not a lot of air movement, not a lot of airflow, and probably not a lot of opportunity for weatherization to occur. And then if you're on the other spectrum at 10,000, that is a very, very uncomfortable home, I'm sure, and a very big opportunity for weatherization. Typically, we don't find homes that are 10,000 or above, but we definitely have in the past, although it's rare. And then again, I have a picture of an old refrigerator, which is definitely one if we encountered that would qualify for replacement. And then on the right there, I have a picture of a gentleman who is conducting a heating system test. So what we do is we test the heating systems to ensure, as I mentioned earlier, that they're working safely, efficiently. And the good thing about this is that if we do encounter a home that has an unsafe heating system, we can always then refer to the crisis program to have that heating system addressed. So it's being put through and leveraging funds for the weatherization program then. And energy education is another big part of what we do. So energy education and materials are provided, and there is an actual session that occurs at every energy audit. And then that energy education, of course, is reinforced throughout the entire process with the goal of eliminating the energy waste, reducing the utility bills and arrearages, improving health and safety, and simply just increasing the comfort of the occupants. So one thing that I have to point out is when the energy auditor goes and completes their audit, one other thing that they are doing as far as eligibility goes is they are determining whether the dwelling itself is eligible for weatherization. And what that means is we do encounter homes sometimes that may have serious active roof leaks, major structural issues, maybe a serious mold problem in the attic or in the basement, and possibly even standing water or foundation issues in the basement. And for these reasons, those homes would not be good, viable homes for us to weatherize. So unfortunately, we would go through with our audit process. However, we would have to reject or defer those homes from the program at that time. What would happen is they would verbally and then in writing be notified of all of the issues that were found, and they would be referred to other community resources which are more appropriate to fit their needs to get those other situations addressed, so that hopefully maybe in the future we would be able to return and weatherize. So for the homes that are found to be eligible after the energy audit, community action utilizes subcontractors to install the weatherization measures. Some of the other agencies also have their direct hire crews. It is something we are currently working on and moving towards to hopefully have more of a hybrid model where we're operating community action crews to do the install work alongside private subcontractors. So some of the most common things that we do at each and every home I listed here, definitely not all inclusive, but just to touch on a few, we would do the attic wall and floor insulation if needed. We do air sealing, so it would be door weather stripping, sweeps, caulk, foam board. And then we focus on the heating system or the cooling system, distribution sealing, the ductwork. And for boilers, we do pipe wrap insulation. We also do water line insulation or the pipe wrap. And then we do update thermostats. So if you have an old outdated thermostat, we want to go ahead and get a programmable one installed, one that you can have set back whenever you're sleeping or away from home. As I already mentioned, the refrigerators, we assess those, and also hot water heaters. Those are assessed through all of our programs, especially with our First Energy Warm program. They're more likely to be replaced if they're in poor condition, rusted, old, that kind of a thing. So aside from the energy conservation measures that we install, which is our main goal and our focus, health and safety measures obviously precede everything. That is number one for us. We always want to do our diagnostic testing to ensure that the home is safe and the occupants are safe. But each program allows us a health and safety budget to address some of these things. So some pretty common things that we install in most homes: smoke alarms and carbon monoxide alarms if they don't have them, or maybe they don't have enough of them where they're needed. We do install exhaust fans, ventilation. We'll either upgrade existing kitchen ranges or bathroom exhaust fans. And in some cases, we'll install entirely new if needed. Because keep in mind, with us trying to stop and minimize that air infiltration, that's that natural airflow, the outside fresh air coming in. And with us stopping that, we want to make sure that we're not leaving the home with poor indoor air quality. We also install attic ventilation if there is none, gable vents, roof vents, as I mentioned earlier, dryer venting. And then we install things such as a pressure relief pipe and or dirt leg for hot water heaters. And those are simply just safety features that we often find are missing from appliances. And then desired outcome for community action and for our weatherization program is, as we've already kind of covered, we want to make sure that we're reducing the energy usage and therefore reducing our participants' monthly bills so that they can become more manageable for them. But also what we're doing throughout this process is we're improving the health and the safety of the home and the occupants who live there. And also another thing that I think sometimes is overlooked is that weatherization does create jobs in our local communities, and it also helps stimulate business because of the products that we require and we purchase. So overall, it's just being a good part of our local communities that we live in and we serve. So lastly, I just want to go ahead and offer some do-it-yourself home energy conservation tips and ideas. There's lots of good resources out there online and videos you can watch, and it's interesting how creative people can be. These are just some. So I'm just going to run down through here. Okay, so for drafty doors, I know that I live in an older home, and this was something that we encountered our first year living there. So basically, if you can buy weather strip kits and door sweeps, they're relatively inexpensive, but you could simply just use an old towel or an old rag to go ahead and put in front of at the bottom of your door. And as that picture in the lower right illustrates, you could even use a modified styrofoam pole noodle to go ahead and stop that airflow as well. You can replace single pane windows, which I understand that is a little bit more costly. But if you're not into that or not ready for that yet, you can also install a plastic window kit or even use bubble wrap. Bubble wrap allows the heat to still transfer, but excuse me, it stops the heat transfer, but it still allows the light to come in. And then simply opening window coverings on sunny days to just allow that natural warmth into the home. And then air sealing gaps with caulk or foam. You'd want to use foam if the opening is larger than a quarter inch. And basically you want to do that where two building materials meet, around windows, door frames. We do a lot of plumbing penetrations underneath sinks and where electrical wiring comes through the walls. A big one that a lot of people don't think about is if they have a fireplace in their home, if it's an unblocked fireplace. So especially if it's no longer in use and there's not a damper on it or the damper doesn't work, you could go ahead and if, again, it's not in use, you could just install some foam board and seal around it. That is a major opening directly to the outside of your home. That would be allowing a lot of your cooling and your heating literally to escape directly to the outside. So that's a biggie there. Another important thing is yearly heating system and AC maintenance. I often heard once, and it stuck with me because it's so true. We are required to get our vehicles inspected every year for our safety. However, there are not a lot of people that think that is so important for their heating systems. And it truly, truly is, especially if we're not doing what we can ourselves to maintain them, such as changing the filter monthly or any, clogged nozzles and things like that. If the furnace can't breathe, it's working overtime, it will eventually create major breakdown and possibly, to the point of where it would need replaced, which is very costly. Another simple one, just reduce the thermostat temperature when you're sleeping or away. Just turning it down a few degrees can save a lot of money on your bills yearly. This is a biggie we see a lot. So remove your AC window units from the windows when they're not in use. There are individuals, I understand, maybe grandma, grandpa, they're a little bit older and it is, cumbersome to remove them. But we really need to make sure that we are doing that. And if we're unable to do that, they do sell AC covers that can be purchased and simply slipped over the AC unit to help prevent that air infiltration from coming in or from your heat escaping. Decrease the hot water heater temperature. Typically, if you purchase a hot water tank, they're going to be set at a default of 140 degrees, where typically all we need is about 120 degrees. So with your water heater working overtime to keep it to that increased temperature, you're losing money. However, it's always best to go ahead and reference the manual. Wash clothes in cold water. This does save a lot of money, and it's not been founded to be true that washing in hot water has any extra benefits anyway. So this is a really, really simple one, and just a change of our habits that could put some more money back in our pockets. Changing the direction of your ceiling fans. If you turn them clockwise, it produces warm air. You'd obviously want to do the reverse then in the summer. Turn off lighting and appliances when not in use. This is a big one, and I know it's difficult with, probably children in the home. I know it was something that my parents were always complaining about when we were running around. So easier said than done, but it is something to pay attention to. I know that a lot of people have maybe lights above their kitchen sinks that they leave on all night long. Maybe go ahead and just purchase an inexpensive night light instead. And then another really important thing is to upgrade your lighting to LEDs. They last longer, and they will save you a lot of money on your electric bill. And replace outdoor lighting with solar powered lighting. The solar powered lighting has come a long way. There are so many more options nowadays. So rather than having, being tied into electricity with maybe an outdoor light that you keep on all night, or every time, maybe if it's motion sense, every time something comes by, replacing it with a solar powered light will save you some money as well. And then, of course, the simplest of them all is to dress appropriately for the season. So in the winter, put on some layers and get out the extra warm blanket so you don't have to have your furnace cranked. And then the same for in the summer as well. So those are just a few ideas. Okay, are there any questions?
Sorry, right now there's nothing in the Facebook comments, but Amy, would you be able to tell us briefly what other programs Community Action offers? We know that you are the director of the Weatherization Program. Are there similar things when it comes to home maintenance or anything like that your program offers?
At this time, those are the only programs through Weatherization that we do offer. We did have for a few years a really wonderful program that was called the Safe and Healthy Home Program. Mm-hmm. And unfortunately, the funding for that, has ended. But that was a really good program where we were able to go in and offer, safety products, fire extinguishers, things like that, which are really important. So that was a really cool program that we had for a while, and maybe hopefully someday that would come back around. As far as housing goes, weatherization, things like that, right now, currently, that is all that we're operating. As I mentioned, we're in the process of trying to build capacity. So we're trying to hire so that we can hopefully start our own crews and then hopefully maybe expand in some other ways. I know we do get confused a lot, maybe for a housing rehab program. We get a lot of phone calls about, can we replace their roofs and things mm-hmm. like that? And unfortunately, no, not at this point. We don't do that. And honestly, that's where we rely on, as I mentioned, the other community resources that are out there and available, which is great because we've worked a lot with other utility weatherization programming and even housing rehabs. The Department of Developments and things have been wonderful.
Is there anything that the community could do to support Community Action Inc. or say programs like this, donations to families that do not have, stable homes or who could benefit from your financial programs?
Yeah, I think so, because as I mentioned, with weatherization, the focus is on energy conservation. So unfortunately, when we encounter situations that people aren't aware of, maybe they haven't been in their attic because they haven't been able to get up there for so many years, or understand that their hot water tank isn't venting to the outside. If our program budgets don't allow for us to overcome those barriers, then that's where it would be really helpful, as you mentioned, if there were maybe donations or other organizations that could come in and maybe help with some of those things. I know we've definitely have been successful in a few cases where maybe the individual was a veteran. So we've, reached out to some veteran organizations, and they've come in and kind of overcome some barriers so that then we would be able to weatherize a home. So
one question is, you do serve Indiana County as well?
yes, absolutely. We do primarily through Community Action serve Clarion and Jefferson counties, but some of our programming does go into neighboring counties. And weatherization is one of them. We are the weatherization service provider for Clarion, Jefferson, and Indiana County.
Okay, thank you. What other organizations have you mentioned reaching out to organizations to help fill that gap in funding? What are your most common partners when it comes to filling that gap?
Our most common partners, as I mentioned, Department of Development is a big one. We've worked on a few homes in both Indiana and Jefferson County, where maybe the Department of Development was able to do some of those things that were not like roof, fixing, replacement, repairs, things like that. Even hot water tanks, there's been windows that they've installed. And again, that helps leverage the funds so that we can help more individuals. So that is one of our biggest ones. We also refer to the Pennsylvania Housing Finance Agency for their program, and then any of the other grants that we become aware of.
You had given a list of different ways people can, quickly in their own home improve their energy efficiency, such as changing the direction of their fan in the winter. What do you think is the most uncommon, or unknown tip that something that you tell people to do that seems to shock them?
That one's tough. I'm not really sure. Honestly, I think that well, maybe even just turning the thermostat back, I think. I'm not sure if it's so much of a shock because they didn't realize it. I just think it's a hard one for people to kind of change their behavior on. And I feel like it's one of the most important ones because that's where most of our costs are, in the heating and the cooling season. So I think that's one of the most important ones that might not be shocking to people, but I think it's one of the most difficult for them to modify their behavior for.
What opportunities might there be to expand the program more in Indiana County?
I'm not sure I understand the question. I guess you mean from a funding perspective or a collaboration?
I think maybe a little bit of both. Like you had said that you primarily work in Jefferson County and Clarion. Is there a reason why you don't work as much in Indiana County? Is it?
Oh, sure. Okay, I'm sorry.
Yeah, no, you're good.
That's a good question. So for clarification, most of our other programming is Clarion and Jefferson County. And the reason for that is typically your weatherization is provided through community action agencies. And we fully serve Indiana County at this point through our weatherization program. Indiana County's community action agency decided to stop weatherization, I believe back in 2011. And then that's when community action was asked if they would go ahead and add it onto their service territory. We honestly have more work in Indiana, being our larger county, than we do in Clarion or Jefferson.
Okay, so it's that there is an existing organization that covers those other aspects outside of weatherization.
Correct. So the other services that I mentioned community action offers, like adult education, medical assistance, transportation, rent, utility assistance, those would actually go through Indiana County's community action.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah.
Do you have a wait list for weatherization? You know, how many people do you have to, or how many people do you have asking for these services?
We have a lot. As a state, we definitely have a lot. It's unfortunate, but what happens is every year through the LIHEAP program, we tend to get a lot of referrals. And it's not unfortunate to have a waiting list. I guess the unfortunate part is the wait, you know, for the customer. It's just a very popular program, and a lot of people are really interested in it. Um, Now, what happens is, as I mentioned, from November through April of every year, when we're operating our crisis program, every single one of those households are informed of weatherization and even prioritized for it. So typically, November through April in the 3-county service territory, we serve about 150 to 200 households. So every year we're getting about 150, 200 names of interest just from that. That's not just general public calling and that kind of a thing. So yeah, we usually have about 200 to 300 names per year.
Okay, okay. And if someone doesn't qualify for the program who has applied, do you still offer educational services or information?
Absolutely. Yes. Every encounter that we have with anybody in the community, we do offer other resources and things like that. Like I said, perfect example. We get a lot of calls about the roof replacements, and that's where, you know, we don't, you just, oh no, we don't do that. Have a nice day. We definitely go ahead and counsel. We'll send out information in the mail to them so that they have the literature on these other programs through Department of Development and the Pennsylvania Housing Finance Agency, as I mentioned, things like that.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah.
And you had talked about a bit about how, you know, in Indiana, your office covers our weatherization program. But what other aspects of community action are there? So if you're the weatherization director, what other departments are there?
Within community action.
Mhm.
Okay, as I mentioned, we have the housing department. We operate some homeless shelters, and we also have a domestic violence program. We have the medical assistance transportation program. We have the retired seniors volunteer program. I believe that operates a little bit in Indiana County as well. They use some of the sites in Indiana County and collaborate also. And then I'm trying to think, and then we do have just our homeless assistance program, which again is more your rent, utility assistance, those kinds of things.
Okay. I will check the Facebook one more time to see if we have any more comments. If you are watching the Facebook, feel free to leave a quick comment, and you know, we'll still take from the chat and Q&A. We appreciate everybody who was able to attend with us today. Would it be all right if I screen share for a moment, Amy?
Sure, absolutely.
You'll have to end your screen share.
Okay.
And I just would like to, you know, while we're waiting for more questions to come in, I would like to take this time to just share some more information about our upcoming webinars, which are happening on March 31st and on April 8th. On March 31st, we will be talking about the shifts in energy industry and its impacts on our local workforce. But then on April 8th, we will be kind of continuing that theme and talking about an organization that addresses those impacts on workforce. So, you know, it will be Coalfield Development, which operates out of West Virginia. They have not expanded into Pennsylvania yet, but they may be looking for partnerships in Pennsylvania. They've been operating for 10 years across Appalachia, investing in small towns, and they even have a store that you can go and look at products that have been made locally in Appalachia, in America, as a part of this program, benefiting people who either, you know, lost their job or who is transitioning out of, I believe, the prison system, or people who did not graduate from high school. So they really do, engage a lot of different populations, and teach them, skills. So it's a really great program. That's April 8th. And of course, March 31st, we will be talking about, there we go, shifts in energy industry. We will be having speakers from the International Brotherhood of Electrical Workers, the Brotherhood of the Boilermakers, Pennsylvania Coal Alliance, and the Pennsylvania Consultant for Environmental Entrepreneurs. So, these organizations will be talking about the way that energy policy or shifts in energy usage are going to be affecting our workforce. So, I really strongly encourage you guys to attend. I'm sure it'll be really interesting conversations. One last question. If you had one wish, Amy, what would you ask for to help your program serve more residents? I think that's a wonderful question.
It's a wonderful question, and I know the answer. As I said, capacity. Right now, what we need to serve more people is more staff, and it's been a challenge to find people to join our workforce. So we've been trying, and we've been interviewing and looking, but right now that is absolutely what we need. We need to build our internal capacity so that we can get out there and do more audits and weatherize more homes.
And, just in case, oh, there you go. What kind of qualifications make a good candidate for this position?
Honestly, this position gets trained through our Weatherization Training Center, the Clean Energy Center. So new beginners is absolutely fine. Even if you don't have any experience, we're absolutely willing to train. But aside from that, it would just be the dependable, strong work ethic, those kinds of things. Yeah.
Any background or training that you're looking for in particular?
Well, it would absolutely be nice if there would be, the background of maybe the HVAC or previously insulating homes. But I do realize that weatherization is kind of a specialization almost. I mean, there's not a lot of people who really, even understand it in a way. When I tell people what I do, what's that? So I don't think that they do understand kind of the technical side of it. So yeah, but that's the nice thing. The training, if you're employed with community action, the training is all paid for. So you would get your certifications and it's no cost. And so that's where we're at. And not just here at community action, that is where we are as a state right now. The state is really focusing on increasing capacity. I know that there is some talk about an increase of funding coming our way. And with that, I believe that not only community action, but the state as a whole wants to be prepared for that.
Oh, that sounds excellent. We're always in favor of more jobs, and so it sounds like that position, maybe might benefit from someone who is a former contractor, but generally anybody who has a willingness to learn could look out for something like that.
Absolutely.
Do you have any closing comments, things you'd like to send us off with?
No, just thank you. I really, really appreciate the opportunity to be here today and to speak. So thank you.
We appreciate you making the time for us. Thank you everyone who attended. As previously stated, there is a survey that you will be given at the end of this webinar. If you aren't watching this webinar live, you can go to sustainableindianacounty.org, go to our Summit for webinar page, and you'll find the Summit survey there. Thank you, everybody. Thank you, Amy.
Thank you.